All right, so we're diving deep today
Deep geek.
into Cloudflare,
Yes.
their Q3 2024 Form 10Q filing.
We're going to make sense of this.
Yeah, quarterly report, all the numbers,
Gritty.
all that good stuff.
That's right.
But I think Cloudflare is a really interesting company because I feel like they're kind of behind the scenes of the internet.
Very much so.
So many people probably interact with them every day and have no idea.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to try and do is like sort of uncover what exactly Cloudflare does and how they fit into this whole internet infrastructure world.
You got it. I mean, you're using the internet every day, right?
Right.
Chances are you've interacted with Cloudflare in some way.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, so let's take a step back. And just for people who don't know, what exactly does Cloudflare do?
So think of Cloudflare as like the guardians of the internet.
Oh.
They offer security, performance, and reliability solutions for pretty much everything online.
Okay.
Websites, apps, you name it.
So, like, if I'm visiting a website, they are sort of like a
It might be.
filter.
Yeah. They're like a shield. They're protecting that website from attacks.
Okay, got it.
Making sure that content loads quickly.
Okay.
And keeping those sites up and running even when things get a little messy.
So like a supercharged traffic cop for the internet.
That is a great way to put it.
Okay.
And their business model is subscription-based.
Okay.
They offer a bunch of different plans.
Okay.
From free basic protection all the way up to enterprise-level packages.
Got it.
They even have something called pools of funds for their largest clients.
Pools of funds. Now that sounds interesting.
It is.
So that's like their platinum membership, I'm guessing.
More common with enterprise clients.
Okay.
Think of it as like a prepaid tab. These companies commit a chunk of money up front to cover their Cloudflare usage for a set period.
Got it.
Gives them flexibility in how they use the services.
So kind of like a use it or lose it situation.
You got it.
For internet security.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about what they do. But the scale of their operation is really pretty mind-blowing.
That's one thing that really jumps out from this 10Q.
Yeah.
Is the sheer scale.
Yeah.
They're in over 330 cities.
It's crazy.
Spanning more than 120 countries.
Yeah.
That's a serious global footprint.
And their client list is equally as impressive.
It is.
You've got like individual developers all the way up to huge Fortune 500 companies.
It really speaks to the breadth of their services.
Yeah.
They've managed to make themselves relevant to pretty much anyone with an online presence.
Yeah. Which at this point is pretty much everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about money.
All right, let's get into it.
So revenue growth looking pretty healthy.
It is
28% year over year, hitting $430 million in Q3.
Big numbers.
Big numbers.
Strong momentum. Oh.
Definitely. That's going to be a good sign, right?
It definitely indicates strong momentum.
Okay.
Of course, we also have to look at profitability.
Right.
They're still operating at a net loss.
Right.
Which isn't uncommon.
Especially for a tech company.
Especially in tech.
That's growing that fast.
Yeah, they're pouring money into expanding that network.
Right.
Developing new products. It's all about playing the long game.
Right. Okay.
But one thing that really stood out to me was their dollar-based net retention rate.
Yeah.
Which is a whopping 110%.
What does that tell us?
So that's one of the most important metrics in this report.
Okay.
It means existing customers are spending 10% more this year compared to last.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It indicates they're not just sticking around. They're finding enough value to actually increase their spending with Cloudflare.
So they're keeping their customers happy.
Absolutely.
That's got to be good.
It shows that their products are sticky.
Yeah.
Once a company integrates Cloudflare, they're likely to stay and even expand their usage.
That makes sense.
That's a good sign for long-term sustainability.
Okay, so we've got this company.
Yeah.
They're growing. They're keeping their customers happy. What are their plans for the future?
Well, one thing is clear. They are doubling down on their network.
Okay.
This 10Q talks a lot about their ongoing investments in expanding their infrastructure.
Makes sense.
Adding data centers, points of presence all over the world.
Yeah.
They're constantly trying to get closer to users, reduce latency, and improve performance.
It's almost like they're building the circulatory system of the internet.
I love that analogy.
It's just making sure that information can flow.
It's a smart strategy.
Yeah.
As more and more of our lives move online,
Right.
that demand for speed and reliability
It's only going to increase.
So they're not just thinking about today.
Exactly.
They're thinking about where the internet is going 5, 10 years down the line.
That's right.
Okay, so how are they attracting new customers?
Well, they've got this really interesting two-pronged approach.
Okay.
On one hand,
Yeah.
they're aggressively pursuing large enterprise clients.
Right.
Big companies with complex needs, deep pockets.
Got it.
But on the other hand, they haven't abandoned their roots.
Okay.
They still have this massive free user base.
Okay, so how does that help them if people are using their services for free?
Think of it as a giant real-world testing ground.
Okay.
All those free users generate tons of data, which helps Cloudflare identify potential security threats or performance bottlenecks.
Got it.
Before they impact their paying customers.
That's pretty smart.
It's like having a massive early warning system.
Okay, so they're using the data from those free users.
To make their products better for their paid users.
Precisely.
Okay, I like that.
And it also helps them build brand awareness, attract developers,
Okay.
which is crucial in the tech world.
Right, because developers are the ones that are often making decisions.
Often the decision makers.
About what services to use.
Exactly.
All right, so speaking of global reach. Their international expansion seems to be going really well.
It is.
50% of their Q3 revenue came from outside the U.S.
Yeah, that highlights their global ambitions.
Yeah.
They're not content with just dominating the U.S. market.
Right.
They're looking to become a truly global force.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And that brings us to another key takeaway.
Okay.
The risks involved in operating on such a global scale.
Yeah, so that risk factors section of the 10Q.
It's always a little bit of a nail-biter.
Yeah, so what are some of the big challenges that they're facing?
Well, the most obvious one is competition.
Right.
They're going head-to-head with some of the biggest tech giants out there.
The Googles, the Amazons.
Yeah, companies like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform.
Right.
These are massive players, deep pockets.
Yeah, so how do you compete with that?
The valid question.
Yeah.
And one that Cloudflare addresses directly in their 10Q.
Okay.
They believe their key differentiators are their focus on innovation, their agility, and their deep expertise in security and performance.
So they're kind of like the scrappy underdog.
Exactly.
That's trying to outmaneuver these big lumbering giants.
They're not trying to be everything to everyone.
Right.
They're focusing on their strengths.
Yeah.
And building a reputation for being the best at what they do.
I like that.
And speaking of security, Cloudflare is not immune to cyber attacks.
Yeah, that incident back in November 2023.
Right.
That was a pretty big deal.
It was a big deal for the whole industry.
Yeah.
And it highlighted the fact that even a company like Cloudflare, with all their security expertise, is not invincible.
Yeah, so what did we learn from that?
What's important is how they respond to these incidents.
Right.
And Cloudflare was very transparent about the breach. They took immediate steps to mitigate the damage. And they really seem to learn from the experience.
So they're constantly working to improve their security.
Absolutely.
And kind of stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, because the threats are constantly evolving.
Right.
So they have to evolve as well.
Okay, so it's not just about the technology. It's about having, like, a security-first mindset throughout the entire company.
It's about the culture.
Yeah.
It's about employee training, awareness.
Right.
Because often the weakest link in any security system is human error.
It's us.
It's us.
Okay, so we talked about cybersecurity threats, but there are also a lot of other risks that come with operating on a global scale.
The world outside the internet can be pretty messy.
Yeah, messy and unpredictable.
Very much so.
So what are some of the things that they're thinking about?
Well, there's the ever-present threat of geopolitical instability.
Right, right.
Which can disrupt supply chains, impact regulatory environments, even lead to cyber attacks, sponsored by nation states.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to keep track of.
So how do they even plan for that?
Well, it really highlights the need for agility.
Okay.
Adaptability.
Right.
Cloudflare has to be able to adjust quickly to changing circumstances.
Yeah, it's like a constantly shifting landscape.
It is.
And they just have to be ready for anything.
And one particular risk that stands out in the 10Q is their reliance on JD Cloud for their entire Chinese presence.
Now, why is that a risk?
Well, China's a huge market for Cloudflare.
Right.
But their entire operation there hinges on this partnership with JD Cloud,
Right.
which is a subsidiary of the Chinese e-commerce giant JD.com.
Right. So they're relying on...
They're putting all their eggs.
One company.
One basket.
In a country that's known for being a little bit unpredictable.
A little bit complex.
When it comes to regulations.
A little bit unpredictable, yeah.
So that seems like a pretty big gamble.
It is, and Cloudflare acknowledges this in the 10Q.
Okay.
They admit that finding an alternative solution in China would be difficult and potentially costly.
Right.
But for now,
yeah,
they seem willing to accept that concentration of risk in exchange for access to such a massive market.
Makes sense. I mean, China is a huge market.
It's a huge market.
And it's growing rapidly. So I can see why they would be willing to take that risk.
But it is a risk.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that potential investors should be aware of.
For sure.
This dependence on a single partner in such a strategically important market.
All right, so we've talked about Cloudflare's strengths, their growth strategies, and some of the risks that they're facing.
A lot to consider.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
Absolutely.
But now let's talk about the investors.
Okay, let's talk about the investors.
What should they be paying attention to?
Well, one thing that's unique about Cloudflare's stock structure is their dual-class share system.
Okay, and explain that for me because I'm...
So they have Class A shares, which are publicly traded, and Class B shares, which are held by the founders, and give them significantly more voting power.
So even though they may not own
the
majority of the shares, they still have a lot of control.
They still have a lot of control.
Over the direction of the company.
Over the direction of the company, exactly.
Okay.
It's a common setup in the tech world. Although it is a bit controversial.
Yeah, I can see how it would be.
Some investors see it as a sign of stability, long-term vision. While others worry about the potential for conflicts of interest.
Yeah, it's definitely a double-edged sword.
It is.
Okay, so anything else that investors should be thinking about?
Well, there are a couple of recent moves that investors might find interesting.
All right.
Cloudflare recently entered into some capped call transactions related to their convertible notes.
Okay, now what are capped call transactions?
So a capped call transaction is essentially a strategy used to hedge against potential losses from convertible notes.
Got it.
And convertible notes are a type of debt that can be converted into shares of stock.
Okay, so like a loan that can turn into ownership.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that conversion can be good or bad for existing shareholders. Depending on the conversion price and the performance of the company's stock.
Okay, and so they're doing this to mitigate some of that risk.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a way of mitigating the potential dilution from the convertible notes.
Got it. So they're being proactive about managing their debt.
They are.
And protecting shareholder value.
That's right.
Okay, so what's your take on Cloudflare so far?
I'm really impressed by their transparency.
Okay.
You know, they could have easily glossed over some of these risks. But they lay it all out on the table.
Yeah.
And I think that shows a certain level of confidence. And accountability.
Yeah. It makes me want to trust them more.
Me too.
Because they're not trying to hide anything. They're saying like, hey,
this is who we are.
Here's the risks.
This is what we're doing.
This is how we're trying to mitigate them.
Yeah.
And we think we're going to be successful.
And we're confident.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's refreshing.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Cloudflare's business model, their growth strategy, the risks they're facing. What's next on our agenda?
Well, we haven't even touched on the potential impact of some recent accounting pronouncements.
Okay, and those are? So
there are 3 pronouncements mentioned in the 10Q.
That are particularly relevant to Cloudflare.
Okay.
ASU 2023-07, ASU 2023-09, and ASU 2024-03.
What do all those numbers and letters mean?
I know they sound a little intimidating.
Yeah.
But essentially, these are updates to the generally accepted accounting principles, or GAAP, which are kind of like the rule book for financial reporting in the U.S. Companies have to follow these rules when they prepare their financial statements.
Makes sense.
And these pronouncements are basically like new chapters.
So they're changing the rules.
They're updating the rules, clarifying.
Yeah.
There are a few reasons.
Okay.
Sometimes it's about clarifying existing rules, closing loopholes.
Right.
Other times it's about addressing new developments.
Okay.
In the business world, like the rise of cloud computing.
Right.
The increasing complexity of global supply chains.
That makes sense.
And sometimes it's about improving transparency.
Okay.
And giving investors a clearer picture of a company's financial health.
Okay, so it's all about just making sure that...
It's about making sure the information that's being reported is accurate and relevant.
And useful.
And useful, exactly.
Right, so let's break these down one by one.
Okay, let's do it.
ASU 2023-07.
Or what is that all about?
This one's all about segment reporting.
Okay.
It requires companies to disclose more detailed information about their different operating segments, including significant expenses associated with each segment.
So instead of just lumping everything together, they got to break it down into smaller chunks. And show us how each part of their business is doing.
It's like shining a brighter light on different parts of the business.
Got it.
Allowing investors to get a more granular view of their operations.
And Cloudflare says they operate as a single segment, right?
They do.
So does this apply to them?
That's an interesting point.
Even though they're not breaking down their business into separate segments, they will still need to provide the additional disclosures required by this pronouncement.
So more transparency, even for companies that operate as a single segment.
Yes.
Okay, so ASU 2023-09.
Right.
What's that one about?
That one focuses on income tax disclosures.
Okay.
So companies will be required to provide more information about their income tax rate reconciliation and the taxes they've paid.
Okay, so cracking down on those.
Tax avoidance scheme.
It's more about giving investors a better understanding of a company's effective tax rate and how it compares to the statutory tax rate.
So more transparency.
Transparency and accountability.
Accountability, yeah.
That's the theme.
Okay, and last but not least, ASU 2024-03.
This one's particularly interesting.
Okay.
This one deals with expense disaggregation.
Expense disaggregation.
In the income statement. Okay.
Which basically means companies will have to break down their expenses into more specific categories in their financial statements.
Okay. So instead of just saying, we spent this much on operating expenses. They have to tell us.
That's right.
This much went to salaries. This much went to marketing.
Salaries. Marketing.
That's right. To R&D.
Research and development.
And so on and so forth.
You got it.
So more granular detail.
It's all about providing more granularity. Allowing investors to see the underlying cost structure.
So these accounting pronouncements are really all about just giving investors...
It's about giving investors...
a much clearer picture.
A clearer picture of the company's financials.
Yeah. So what does this mean for Cloudflare?
Well, they're still evaluating the full impact.
Right.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
These are complex rules.
Yeah.
And it takes time to figure out how they'll be applied in practice.
Okay, so we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see
how this all plays out.
But it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
As we continue to follow Cloudflare's journey.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just a reminder that the world of accounting is just as complex.
It's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Just like the technology industry.
And they're all connected.
They are all connected.
All right, so we've talked about Cloudflare's business model, their growth strategy, the risks they're facing. Now we've even touched on the world of accounting.
The fascinating world of accounting.
So what's next on our deep dive agenda?
Well, we've talked a lot about the challenges Cloudflare is facing.
Right.
But we haven't really dived into their opportunities yet.
Okay.
And trust me, they've got some exciting plans for the future.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
All right.
Let's talk opportunities.
Let's do it.
What are they betting big on?
One of their biggest bets is on the continued growth of edge computing.
Okay, so remind me what edge computing is again.
It's basically about moving computing power closer to the users.
Okay.
Rather than relying on centralized data centers.
Okay, so instead of sending all your data to like one central location, you're processing it locally.
Closer to where the data is being generated and consumed.
Got it.
Yeah.
Exactly. It makes things faster, more efficient.
Faster, more efficient, more reliable.
And this is where Cloudflare comes in.
This is where Cloudflare comes in.
Okay.
They're building a massive global network of edge servers. They can handle all sorts of computing tasks.
Okay.
From content delivery to security.
Got it.
To data analytics.
So they're positioning themselves as the platform.
They are.
For this new era of edge computing.
It's a bold move.
It is.
But they believe it's the future of the internet.
Okay.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Makes sense.
They're investing heavily
in
building out their edge network.
Yeah.
Developing new products and services.
Right.
That take advantage of this distributed computing model.
So give me some concrete examples.
Okay, sure.
Of how they're applying edge computing.
One of the most obvious examples is content delivery.
Okay.
Cloudflare's edge network can cache static content, like images and videos, closer to users.
Right.
Which means websites load faster and use less bandwidth.
So that explains why some websites load so fast these days.
Exactly.
Okay.
But it's not just about speed.
Right.
It's also about reliability.
Right.
If one edge server goes down, another one can pick up the slack, ensuring that websites and applications stay online.
So there's redundancy built in?
Redundancy built in.
Okay.
Even in the face of disruptions.
That's huge, especially for businesses.
It's huge.
That rely heavily on their online presence.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about content delivery.
It's not just about content delivery.
They're also using it for security.
They are.
Like DDoS protection.
DDoS protection, web, application, firewall.
Okay, so they're acting as a shield.
A shield, yes.
Protecting websites and applications.
Protecting them from attacks.
Got it. Okay.
And because their security services are distributed across this global network, they can respond to attacks more quickly and effectively.
That makes sense.
Than traditional security solutions.
Okay, so really leveraging the power of the edge.
They are.
To make things more secure, more reliable.
Exactly.
Okay, are there any downsides or risks?
Of course.
To this edge computing strategy?
Of course, there are always risks.
Okay.
One of the biggest challenges is managing the complexity of a distributed network.
It's a lot of moving pieces.
It is. Thousands of servers spread across the globe.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of sophisticated software engineering expertise.
Yeah, to make sure that everything is talking to each other.
To keep everything running smoothly.
Working properly.
It's like conducting an orchestra. Where the musicians are scattered all over the world. And they're all playing different instruments at the same time.
So how do they do that?
Well, it highlights the importance of automation.
Right.
And orchestration.
Yeah. They can't be doing all this manually.
You can't do it all manually.
Yeah.
Cloudflare has to be able to manage this edge network efficiently and efficiently and effectively.
Right.
Without requiring a lot of manual intervention.
So they're investing in automation?
They are.
Artificial intelligence.
AI, machine learning.
And good stuff.
All the good stuff.
To make sure that...
To help them manage this complex network.
This orchestra is running smoothly.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the technology.
Okay.
It's also about having the right people.
Right, yeah.
Cloudflare's been hiring aggressively. Bringing in top talent.
Right.
From across the tech industry.
To build and manage this next generation network.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not just the technical challenges.
Right.
What are some of the business challenges?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest challenges is pricing.
Okay.
Edge computing is still a relatively new concept.
Right.
There's no established pricing model.
Okay, yeah.
So Cloudflare has to figure out how to price their edge services in a way that's both competitive and profitable.
It's a delicate balancing act.
It is. They can't be too expensive.
Right.
Or they'll scare away potential customers.
Right, yeah.
But they can't be too cheap.
Right.
Or they'll end up losing money.
Makes sense.
And they also have to figure out how to sell edge computing to businesses that may not fully understand the benefits.
It's like selling a product that people didn't even know they needed.
It is.
Okay.
Cloudflare has to do a lot of education, evangelizing, to convince businesses
that this is the future.
That edge computing is the future.
Okay, and if they can do that,
if they can pull it off,
the payoff could be huge.
The rewards could be enormous.
It's a high-stakes game.
It is.
But it sounds like they're playing it strategically.
Absolutely.
Now, before we wrap up this section on opportunities, I want to touch on one more thing.
Okay.
Their international expansion.
Their global ambitions.
We touched on this earlier.
We did.
But let's dig a little deeper.
Right, let's dig in.
What's their strategy for conquering the world?
Well, their approach is multifaceted.
Okay.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
They're continuing to expand their network infrastructure globally.
Makes sense.
They're adding new data centers.
Okay.
Points of presence in key markets all over the world.
So they're laying the groundwork.
Laying the groundwork.
For global domination.
Yes, building the infrastructure.
Yeah.
That will connect the world.
It's like a modern-day Silk Road.
I like that.
For the internet.
But it's not just about the physical infrastructure.
Right.
It's also about adapting their services to local markets.
Yeah.
So they're translating their website documentation into multiple languages.
Yeah.
Building relationships with local partners.
Okay.
Distributors.
So they're really taking a localized approach.
They are.
To their global expansion.
They understand that what works in the U.S. might not work in Europe or Asia.
Yeah. Different cultures, different regulations.
Different cultures, different regulations, exactly.
So they have to be flexible and adaptable.
Absolutely.
Okay, so going global obviously presents a whole new set of challenges.
It does.
Right.
We talked about the complexities of navigating different regulatory environments and the threat of geopolitical instability.
Yeah.
But there are also cultural differences. To consider. What resonates with customers in one country might not resonate with customers in another.
Right. So they have to be very sensitive.
Culturally sensitive.
To those nuances.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's a lot to juggle.
It is.
But it sounds like they're approaching it strategically.
I think so.
But with all this talk of opportunities, global expansion, it's easy to get caught up in the hype.
It is.
Right. You have to remember that Cloudflare's still a relatively young company. Operating in a rapidly changing industry.
That's right.
So what should investors be watching for?
What should they be looking for?
In the coming quarters to gauge their progress.
That is a great question.
What are the key indicators?
So here are a few things I'd be paying attention to.
All right.
First, how are they managing the competition from those public cloud giants?
The big guys.
Amazon, Google, Microsoft. Are they continuing to differentiate themselves? Carve out a unique space in the market.
They got to find their niche.
They have to find their niche, exactly.
Okay, what else?
Second, their commitment to security is non-negotiable.
It can't be an afterthought.
It can't be an afterthought. Are they continuing to invest in their defenses?
Learning from past incidents.
Like that 2023 attack.
Like the 2023 attack. Proving to customers that their data is safe.
Yeah, because trust is hard to earn.
Trust is hard earned.
And easy to lose.
And easily lost, especially when it comes to online security.
Absolutely. Okay, what else?
Third, how are they navigating the global landscape? Are they showing the agility and foresight to adapt
to these constant changes?
To changing regulations, geopolitical dynamics.
Yeah, the world's a volatile place.
It's a volatile place.
It's unpredictable.
It is.
And they're operating on a global scale.
Global scale.
So that's a huge challenge.
It's a big challenge.
Okay. And then finally.
And finally, that JD Cloud relationship.
The China question.
The China question. Is it stable?
Are there any cracks?
Any signs of strain?
Potential disruptions?
Yeah, that market is huge for Cloudflare.
It's a big gamble.
It's a big gamble.
But it could pay off big time.
It could pay off big time.
Okay, so we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
A lot to consider.
As they follow Cloudflare's journey.
Absolutely.
It's a company to watch.
It is.
For sure.
For sure.
Anything else that you would add to that?
Just remember, this Form 10Q is just a snapshot in time.
Right.
The tech world moves quickly.
Yeah, it does.
So it's essential to stay informed.
Yeah, stay up to date.
Watch for those quarterly updates.
All right, now there's one more thing I want to touch on before we completely wrap up this episode.
All right.
Those capped call transactions.
Yes.
Related to their convertible notes.
The capped call transactions.
We talked about those a little bit earlier.
We did.
But I think it would be helpful just to kind of recap what those are and why they're important.
All right, so a capped call transaction is essentially a strategy used to hedge against potential losses from convertible notes. And convertible notes, as we discussed, are a type of debt
that can be converted into shares of stock.
Right, like a loan that can turn into ownership.
Exactly.
Right.
And that conversion can be good or bad for existing shareholders.
Depending on
the conversion price and the performance of the company's stock.
Okay, so how do capped calls fit into all of this?
So a capped call transaction involves selling call options on the company's stock with a strike price that's set above the current market price.
Got it.
This generates income for the company. but it also limits their potential upside.
Right.
If the stock price rises significantly.
So it's kind of like a trade-off.
It is a trade-off.
Okay.
It's a way of mitigating the potential dilution from the convertible notes.
Okay.
But it also caps their potential gains.
Got it.
It's a strategy that's often used by companies that have issued convertible notes, especially if they're concerned about the potential impact of those notes on their stock price.
So it sounds like Cloudflare is being proactive.
They are.
About managing their debt.
They are.
And protecting shareholder value.
That's right.
They're using all these different financial instruments.
They are. It's complicated stuff.
Yeah.
But they're navigating it well.
Okay. So it's been a fascinating journey.
It has been.
Through the world of Cloudflare.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Their business model, their growth strategy, the risks they're facing, the opportunities they're pursuing.
A lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
And a lot of risks.
And we even got into
the
nitty-gritty of accounting and
the fascinating world of accounting.
Capped call transactions.
And capped calls.
So what are your final takeaways?
Cloudflare is a company that's clearly on the move.
Okay.
They're operating in a dynamic industry,
a
rapidly evolving industry.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to take risks
to
achieve their goals.
Bold company.
They are a bold company.
Okay. So any parting thoughts?
If you're interested in the future of the internet, Cloudflare is a company worth keeping an eye on.
Okay.
They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible in online security, performance, reliability.
They're trying to build a better internet.
Trying to build a better internet, exactly.
And they're doing it with a global mindset.
A global mindset.
And a commitment to transparency.
And transparency is key.
Transparency is key.
Especially in this day and age.
So for investors, it's important to weigh
the risks and the opportunities.
The risks and the opportunities carefully.
This is a company with huge potential.
Yeah.
But it's also operating in a volatile and unpredictable environment.
All right. Well, it's been a great conversation.
It has been.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk about Cloudflare.
And for our listeners, if you want to learn more about Cloudflare, we encourage you to check out their website. And their investor relations materials.
Lots of great information there.
Yeah, they've got quarterly earnings reports.
Investor presentations,
their blog.
Yeah, their blog's a great resource.
Yeah.
And remember, this is just a snapshot in time.
Right.
Things change quickly in the tech world.
Yeah. So stay informed.
Stay informed.
Keep an eye on the latest developments.
That's right.
All right. On that note, we're going to wrap up.
Sounds good.
This deep dive.
It's been a deep dive.
Into Cloudflare's Q3 2024 performance.
It has been.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time.
Stay curious.
So much to think about.
Yeah. A lot to unpack there.
It's like we've been drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah. It's been a whirlwind.
But let's bring it back to our listener.
Okay.
What should they be watching for in the coming quarters?
Yeah. What are the key indicators?
To see if Cloudflare is really going to, reach their full potential.
So I think a few things come to mind.
Okay.
First, keep an eye on their ability to compete.
Yeah.
With those tech giants we talked about.
The Amazons.
Amazon, Google, Microsoft.
Yeah.
Are they continuing to carve out that distinct space in the market?
Like, are they holding their own?
Yeah. Are they getting squeezed out?
It's a tough battle out there.
It is a tough battle.
Okay, what else?
Second, their commitment to security.
Yeah.
It's non-negotiable in this business.
Yeah, they really messed up there in 2023.
They did, and they've got to prove to their customers
they've learned from that.
That they've learned that the data is safe.
Yeah, because that trust is so important.
Trust is paramount.
Absolutely.
And so easy to lose.
Okay.
Third, how are they navigating the global landscape?
Yeah.
It's a volatile world out there.
It really is.
New regulations.
Yeah.
Geopolitical shifts.
Unpredictable.
A lot to handle.
It is.
Are they showing that agility and the foresight to adapt?
Can they roll with the punches?
Can they roll with the punches? Yeah.
Okay, and then finally...
that JD Cloud relationship in China.
Yeah, that's still a big question mark for me.
It is. It's a big gamble.
It is.
But it could pay off big time.
So we need to see how that plays out.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
It's like we've given our listener a roadmap
Yeah.
to follow Cloudflare's journey.
A set of binoculars.
Yeah, exactly.
Highlighting those key areas to focus on.
Exactly.
As this story unfolds.
And hopefully they'll come away not just informed, but empowered to continue their own exploration.
Because knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power, that's right.
All right, well, for anyone who's ready to dive into the really nitty-gritty detail.
The deep end of the pool.
Yeah.
That full Form 10Q is out there.
It's waiting for you.
On Cloudflare's investor relations website.
Maybe not a beach read.
It's not exactly light reading.
No.
But it's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
If you're really interested in this company.
And it really gives you a glimpse.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah. Of a company that's shaping the future of the internet.
Yeah, Cloudflare is definitely a company to watch.
They are.
All right, well, that wraps up our deep dive.
It does.
Into Cloudflare's Q3 2024 performance.
Fascinating stuff.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time.
Stay curious.